It's two gender time, and the left is going nuts. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt. And I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. Did you hear the news? In America, there are only two sexes, male and female. Who knew, right? Because if you've been listening to Joe Biden and Team Biden and the Democrats and the LGBTQ crowd these last few years, there's no such thing as just two genders, two sexes. That's discriminatory. That's bigoted. That's hateful. And those who insist on taking their definitions of male and female from the Bible, well, now, they are just out of date, hateful, hate-filled, and ought to be drummed out of society. That's the left's narrative, right? That's what we've suffered under for so long. And now Donald Trump has come into the White House riding a horse called common sense, and he's issued an executive order declaring that in America, the federal level will only recognize two sexes, male and female. Who knew that we'd have to make this an executive order in America, right? I wonder what founding fathers would say about today's America. Anyhow, before we get into more of that, I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network at washingtontimes.com, where you may also subscribe to my 3 times a week newsletter called Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. Just scroll to the bottom of the washingtontimes.com main page, click on it, and it will take you to, at the bottom, there's a link that will take you to the newsletter section. You'll find Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley right there, featured prominently among all the other newsletters the Washington Times offers, all of them worthwhile to check out. But if you want to subscribe to Bold and Blunt, the newsletter, you'll have delivered to your email box 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My newsletter containing my commentaries that I write at the Washington Times, along with my Bold and Blunt podcasts. They come out Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can get them wherever podcasts are available, but why go to all that trouble, right? Why do a Google search? Why help out Google's popularity when you can just subscribe at the Washington Times? Makes sense? Common sense. That's what we're talking about. And with that segue, here comes common sense. Trump, two gender, eat it. Eat it. Oh my goodness, it sounds so official. Will upend X identity on passports. This is hilarious to me, okay? This right here, the chaos that declaring the existence of two genders and two genders only, male and female. In his image, he created them male and female. Speaking of God, not Trump, though Trump is recognizing that God only created two sexes. The chaos that has been generated over the last few years because of the far leftists, Marxist, communist, collectivist. Did I say Marxist? Yes, I did. Marxist ideologies that say you can be whatever sex you want, you can be whatever gender you want. Johnny, you can be Jane. Jane, you can be Johnny. And Johnny and Jane, you can be a salamander if you want. Go for a horse. Be a cat. Be a cat. Go to school. Go to school and meow. When the teacher asks you to recite your multiplication tables, just meow. Just go meow, meow. Meow, meow. And then, if the teacher tries to send you to the principal's office, just meow at the principal. When the principal asks, hey, Johnny/Janie, what's your problem today? Just go meow, meow. So the chaos that has been generated because of the far left ideologies, right? The Marxist ideologies that they've been trying to shove down Americans' throats is coming back to bite them in the beep, right? Big time beep, beep. And this is hilarious to me. So now, if you ran out under Joe Biden and got yourself a passport, and then in the section where it says gender or sex or whatever, you just put nothing, you just put X, well, guess what? You ain't flying. You ain't flying overseas on that passport, right? The federal government, CNN writes, will only recognize two sexes, male and female, under an executive order that President Donald Trump signed. The order reverses efforts by the Biden administration to broaden gender identity designations, including on passports. Here's the quote Trump said. This is Trump during his inaugural address. As of today, he said on Inauguration Day, it will henceforth be the official party of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. The order was titled, Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. Trust the science. Trust the science on this. There are only two sexes, male and female. Okay, reading on in this CNN piece, the federal government will also shift from using the term gender to sex, and that sex is, quote, an individual's immutable biological classification. That's a Trump administration official talking to reporters. And here's the immediate effect. CNN writes, all government agencies will ensure that official documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, accurately reflect the holder's sex, the executive order says. Also, departments running federal prisons, migrant shelters, rape shelters, and other intimate spaces will be directed to protect single-sex spaces for privacy, and employee records will also adhere to the executive order, as will federal departments' messaging. The Trump administration official went on to say, quote, agencies are no longer going to promote gender ideology through communication forms and other messages. Well, thank goodness it's only your passport and not your birth certificate, right? Because the left wanted it just put in place that at birth, you just leave it blank, male, female. I'll just leave it blank. We'll fill it in later. We'll just fill it in later. We'll test out various genders and sexes and binary and non-binary and pronouns and theys and thems and, you know, who's ever's, whatnot, and we'll settle. We'll decide later in life. We'll just leave that a big old blank, a big old question mark, and, you know, until we decide, meow, 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 right? That's the communication of choice, because we identify as a cat. As of 2022, CNN goes on to write, U.S. citizens have been able to select X as their gender marker on passports. This is so funny to me. Now everybody's up in arms on the left about this, right? I gotta go get a new passport. Are you kidding me? One's marker does not need to match the gender on citizenship documents or photo ID, nor is medical documentation needed to change one's gender, according to the State Department. That was how it was. We promote the freedom, dignity, and equality of all people, including LGBTQI plus, etc., question mark, exclamation point, plus, plus, plus. I'm adding that. Individuals, the State Department's website says. Sorry, CNN, wrong tense, used to say. We are demonstrating this commitment to better serve all U.S. citizens, regardless of gender identity, the State Department website says. Sorry, CNN, used to say. Because now common sense is back in the room. And thankfully, we have an executive order telling us what we all knew anyhow, that there are only two sexes, male and female, and that God is the one who ordains the sex. of the individual. God is the creator. God is the one that determines male versus female. And nothing, no matter how many dresses and coats of makeup you put on, Johnny, is not going to make you a girl. So thankfully, we have an executive order in America now making this clear, because it seemed to me that Democrats and those on the left had a real hard time grasping that truth. Trust the science. And they wanted us to trust the science for so many years under the coronavirus clampdowns, but when it comes time to real science, they had a struggle with it. So we dodged a bullet. We dodged a bullet that Kamala Harris certainly would have shot right into our backs again, right? The LGBTQ agenda, it would be steamrolling right along had a different person come into the White House in the last few days. But we dodged a bullet on that. And I have with me a guest today, hopefully her situation and her daughter's situation, which is really what we all faced around the nation had Kamala Harris won. Hopefully her situation and her daughter's situation will now die a quick death because, as I said, common sense has come back into the White House, and we all know male and female, there's only two. And so what she describes, she's still going through it right now, but hopefully it will all die a quick death because Donald Trump has come in and made clear two sexes, male, female, and wait for the school systems to have to deal with that. Cheryl Saltzman, she is my guest. Her daughter is in college and, until just lately, was suffering under the hands of a male resident assistant, RA, who identified as a woman and who took up home right in the female section, right on the female floor, right in the room, right next door. Unbelievable. Cheryl, I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. It is so great to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much. And I wanted to shout out Campus Reform for sharing my story and for you for having me on. This is such an honor.
Oh, well, Campus Reform does wonderful work. I love promoting their stuff. And you are actually a whistleblower for Campus Reform. In reference to the story we're going to discuss today, your daughter is at Utah State University, and I understand that she now has a male RA, resident assistant, in her female dorm.
Yes. So she changed dorm suites. So the building is actually like, if you can imagine, a motel style building. And so each room, so there's a hallway, outdoors hallways with door to each dorm suite. And each suite actually holds 6 girls. 3 bedrooms, and it's very tiny. 3 bedrooms, 1 tiny bathroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room. And it's a very small and intimate space. And a man pretending to be a woman just showed up at before my daughter left for Christmas and moved in without warning, without consent. And he was actually hired by the university as the resident assistant for that floor.
So when you say a man pretending to be a woman, you mean basically a biological man who dresses as a woman. He wears dresses or skirts, but he hasn't undergone any type of medical treatment to even go so far as to pretend to change his sex?
Yeah, I don't know how far he's gone. It seems very clear to me that he's a man. And even if he had, gone to great lengths, that doesn't mean you're a woman. And, it doesn't mean that we can't have empathy and kindness, but really those feminine attributes that we have really have been weaponized against us, haven't they? We can't give up our private spaces to validate a man, even if he truly believes that he's a woman. And in fact, there is a designated dorm that is gender inclusive, that is gender neutral, that he could have moved into. And he chose to invade and move into a girl's space, a girl's intimate space, knowing that he was potentially, at least potentially, going to make them very uncomfortable.
So was your daughter the only one who expressed discomfort with this situation?
So actually, so the RA that had been there the first semester moved out. She decided she didn't want to do it anymore. And then her bedroom mate. So there's 2 girls for each bedroom in this dorm suite. And her bedroom mate had moved out. And then there were 2 other girls that still remained that I know of in there with him. And I believe that they're not comfortable. I just believe that they don't want to make a fuss, that they don't have, the support and the desire, and really just are just put in this situation, But my daughter, when she decided, when it was confirmed that this was a man, we got her changed, but she also messaged her new bedroom mate that was planning on moving in that Saturday, that next day, and just said, hi, she doesn't know this girl, but she just said, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up that a man did move into our suite, and I don't know if this bothers you, but I just felt like I wanted to let you know. And she was like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Absolutely not. I do not feel comfortable with that. And so that gal actually called and changed suites as well.
This seems over the top on the part of the university because, as you pointed out, they already have facilities for gender inclusive people, right? Those who don't care, who wouldn't be bothered by this situation. So it almost seems as if they allowed this to happen and appointed this man as RA to force it down, to force an agenda.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he just slipped under the radar, right? And said, well, my name is this girl's name, and, and they just didn't know. They interviewed, they hired, they actively placed this man, and we did interact with him when we were moving my daughter out that Saturday. And it's, he's very clearly a man, and he may be nice, but we cannot be nice and kind at the expense of our private spaces. We have to draw a line, and we have to be clear, and we've got to stand up for these spaces because we're really being canceled as women and girls, that it's just not fair, that our comfort, that women's comfort comes last, comes after the validation of a man. It's just no means no. We need to stand up to it.
So have you or your daughter or anyone else to your knowledge complained to campus officials about this?
So since I've spoken out and got kind of, put out there and got all this attention, I have had a couple people kind of message me anonymously telling me that, similar situations have happened to them at the on-campus housing at the university. And so I really think this is happening much more than we think. They were so brazen to just do it, so I can't imagine that this is the first time.
So this is Utah State University, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So before, I don't know what grade your daughter's in. Is she a freshman? Is she a sophomore?
A freshman. This is her first year. She had just completed her first semester in that dorm before we had to pick up and move her for this next semester that she just started. So she just graduated high school last year.
So when you were applying to colleges, did you happen to notice on any of the college websites, whether Utah State University or others that you guys applied for, whether there were any notations that men could be living in the same dorms and suites and serving as RAs for women students?
Yeah, I'm start like as I'm talking to people and stuff, is what I'm understanding is this is the same policy in all of these universities around the state and probably around the country. Like this is actually fairly, becoming more common, and nobody's speaking out for whatever reason. And so yeah, but I will say that my husband and I went to Utah State. It's a really conservative community, and we loved it. We were so excited for her to go. I really thought it was a more conservative choice, but these universities really have been so infiltrated with these woke policies, and they don't even reflect the community and our conservative state, and it's so frustrating. I really can't believe it, because I hear about this stuff, but you just don't think it's as bad as it actually is. And if we don't attempt to put a stop to this now, I can't even imagine how bad it's going to get.
It's interesting you brought that up about the conservative side of Utah State, because I was going to ask that very same thing. This is something that you would expect to see at Harvard or one of the Ivy Leagues or some of these far leftist Berkeley type of schools. But Utah State University, I thought, knowing very little about it, but I just assumed because of the state of Utah and my limited knowledge of the university system there, that it was very conservative and even maybe religious based.
Yeah, it's not, like we have the BYU, and this is not happening there because that's a religious private school. But yeah, no kidding, it's the Aggies. They're an agricultural school. This isn't even reflecting the majority of their student body. They don't even want this. It's just they've infiltrated these leadership positions, the housing department, and it is actually really interesting how much these woke policies have, even in Utah, even in our, elementary, our K through 12 schools, how much of this stuff has infiltrated into the school system, and then clearly into the higher education for sure, where it's kind of, I feel like, started, and then you teach the future elementary school teachers, and
so as a state university, it does accept tax dollars. It does take some form of public funding, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So you must be watching with great interest then what's been happening on Capitol Hill just in the last few days, the House passing that piece of legislation that would bar public schools in America that take federal funding, that take taxpayer dollars, from allowing men dressed as women to pretend to be women and go into the public spaces of women. I'm not sure how that would translate automatically to Utah State University if that were to pass in the Senate and then be signed by the president, but it certainly does lay the groundwork for further legislation. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think, it couldn't hurt for sure. And I do know that, I have so much support, and there is, like our Utah Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz, has spoken with me and assured me that we're going to get something passed, and that this is, he's going to take some action. So I do have support. I've had, a senator reach out to me and stuff. So I've been blessed with a lot of support in this. And so I really do believe that there's going to be change. And then I love the federal. I think this should, I don't know how old you are, but I am old enough to remember This was never a thing. This is such a new thing. This was never something that we needed to worry about. It was understood when you went into a girl's bathroom, restroom, locker room. You booked a girl's dorm room suite, that you were going to be placed with women. And to not be able to have that expectation is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, some schools went so far as to even prohibit men from entering certain floors of dorm rooms that were allocated women only. And it seems like those days have gone by the wayside as well.
Yeah.
What can you detail some of the contents of your conversation with your state political leaders? Was it simply just a quick phone call, or did you guys talk details about possible legislation and language?
So, it was when this all kind of blew up with Eric Musos's post that he did on this. And he was so great. He was so validating. And there had been a bill passed, I don't know when, but it was HB 257 or something, that actually required locker rooms, dressing rooms, public locker rooms, dressing rooms, and bathrooms to only be used by the gender of your birth. And somehow, some way, the college has found a loophole. And I don't know, I'm not really good at the legal side. That's not really something, I understand fully, but somehow there's some sort of loophole or something, which is insane, because this is so am I to understand that because this is a private, it's a public school, so it's just this is such a small area, 3 bedrooms with 6 girls and sharing one bathroom. And this bathroom is so small. And so you can't, take a shower and go to your bedroom in your towel without knowing that there's a man. You can't make breakfast comfortably in your pajamas and just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a violation. It's just not something that we should just be expected to be okay with.
Yeah, it's lunacy. And just to wrap up here, you sound baffled, as I'm sure many listeners are too. I wonder if you have any awareness of, do you know personally, have you ever interacted with Utah State University president or administrative staff? Have you come into contact with them? Have you seen them in meetings or anything like that? Do you know anything about them that could sort of shed light on why they are so adamant about forcing this agenda?
No one has reached out to me. There's been very little. They put out a statement kind of saying they'll review their policies. It kind of illegally cover their bases. I feel like they've been trying to just say nothing, as little as possible, till they're forced to by maybe laws and stuff. But that RA is still in that dorm suite. I really feel like they've doubled down. This dean or president of the school, whatever you call it, she is a woman. She has no children. And, she's certainly not. So, really, I don't know much else besides that, except she must be just perfectly fine and want these woke agendas, really. And I know the whole... it seems to me, based on this experience and the interactions, that the whole housing department is just really adamantly, morally, feel like they have the moral high ground, that they want to protect this student, which, everyone deserves a safe space. And that is why there is that gender inclusive housing. But he crossed the line. At the expense of girls. We can't allow it. And it's astounding, because it really seems to be women that really get entrapped in this the most.
Well, thankfully, you and your daughter are fighting back on this, and thankfully, too, that the political winds seem to be shifting, right? maybe saner times are coming, let's hope, for the safety of women and girls, right? Well, Cheryl Saltzman, I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt and sharing your story and fighting the good fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Stories like this that have to make you say, thank goodness Donald Trump won, right? Could you imagine 4 years of Kamala Harris? What the state of womanhood would be? We'd be wiped out. Anyhow, I want to thank you for listening. Remind you, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network, at WashingtonTimes.com, and of course, wherever podcasts are available. Tune in next time. In the meanwhile, don't forget, stay blunt, stay bold.